All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Parag Bamnani, and I'm with Webgility. This video is being recorded as part of a series called Beat It. We're talking to experts in retail and e-commerce on the impact that the coronavirus is having on their business in the industry. We'll get a firsthand look at the actions they're taking and get real advice to help you beat this crisis. Today, I'm really delighted that we're talking to Emily Wilcox. She's both a successful Amazon entrepreneur who founded her own e-commerce business that grew to a seven-figure business. And she's also passionate about e-commerce and has started the Elevate Growth Group, where she helps other brands launch and grow their Amazon business. So welcome, Emily, and let me know if I missed anything. Welcome to today's interview.
Thanks, Parag. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. It's great to have you. I'm just going to jump right in. So can you share a little bit about your business and how the coronavirus has impacted it?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we have our own product business on Amazon, and then we have the opportunity and the joy, myself and my team at Elevate, to work with a lot of different brands and different categories to manage the Amazon sales channel for them. So we have access to kind of a swath of data, and we can see, where things have been impacted both positively and negatively. Personally, for our baby clothing brand, we had really strong sales initially, and then Amazon did what they called an essentials push, where they prioritize products that they deemed essential. And for those of us that even just as consumers rely on Amazon, would have noticed that our wonderful 2-day Prime shipping, all of a sudden a lot of items were showing a late April delivery, which was about a month out. So this happened late March. So when that happened, both for my own products and client products that had that 3 days out, we saw conversion rates tank on advertising, and we saw sales soften. Thankfully, Amazon, within about a week and days, was able to expand what they were considering like essential item. And so it minimized the impact. And we had like some Easter themed clothing for children, and we pulled through all of our inventory. And we're seeing most of our clients, even in like non-intuitive product categories, actually with quite strong sales, them like recording sales through this.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think we're seeing kind of a very similar trend here at Webgility across our customers. It's kind of a tale of two different kind of segments. It feels like a lot of strong growth in categories where the work from home folks are really benefiting, and categories such as non-essentials and things where would be impacted by somebody actually being in a physical store. We're starting to see a pretty dramatic decline in those. Speaking about your business in terms of Amazon, you mentioned that you lost that prime real estate. So I'm going to assume here that you use FBA. Can you talk a little bit about fulfillment? And is Amazon also like the only channel you sell, or do you also have other locations or online locations, I should say, that you sell on?
Yeah, so for us, our Amazon, it's not really our primary focus right now. So it is wonderful, and it's a good steady revenue stream. The reason we keep it is because it's primarily managed by our team at Elevate, and we believe in being kind of like the chefs that need to eat their own lunch. And so,
Sure.
when we're talking to other business owners, I find it's very helpful to say we also have our own business, like, and everything that we do has to be good enough for us as well. And we use it as a testing ground sometimes for new that we want to try, where we're willing to just risk our own money to see if it works. So Amazon really is, 95% of revenue in that business. We do some through our website and that kind of thing, but we're not super diversified. We do primarily FBA. We used to do some fulfilled by merchant out of a 3PL, and it ultimately it wasn't worth the time and hassle for us because baby clothing and toddler clothing, it's pretty small and light. The storage fees are not substantial with Amazon. and just having duplication of all of the listings and some of just work and maintenance that's required with FBM, fulfilled by merchant, wasn't worth the effort. We did have clients where we pretty quickly moved things to fulfilled by merchant during that time period where it was like delivery dates were pushed out. But honestly, like, because we're only talking about 7 or 10 days, and then Amazon was able to kind of catch back up, for a lot of clients, it really ended up just being talk. And then ultimately, it really, by the time we were ready to execute and they were saying like, yeah, okay, here are our shipping timelines, here's what we can commit to, you know, FBA just made more sense again.
Sure, sure. So it sounds like, is there sort of a concentration in terms of, the particular categories where you're seeing this? Because I don't think Amazon's yet unblocked kind of non-essential categories. Are things back to kind of normal in terms of 2-day, or has that lag already changed in your from your observation?
So on the consumer side of things, what I've seen is that it's very product specific. So Amazon's trying to make it like it's category specific. But for example, like I went to buy some light bulbs, and I noticed like there was one brand that I could get the 2-day shipping, and all of the brands still a few weeks out. So while it's being purported as kind of this essentials versus non-essentials, what we believe is that really it's Amazon's algorithm that is prioritizing higher demand and products that had more sales revenue coming into this. So, we have a client that does gifts. Like, it's delicious tea, but it's very giftable. There's nothing essential about it per se. But because they sell a lot on Amazon, they have a high sales velocity. They were never, they always considered essential and, have continued to have strong sales.
Fascinating. Yeah, I guess even in these tough times, it sounds like Amazon's sort of algorithms and rule books tend to change quite rapidly, and what we see outside might vary by product. So really kind of a shout out to you and a lot of folks that really are helping Amazon merchants navigate this marketplace, because it sort of feels a little bit like the wild, wild west, and it's really hard for retailers to figure out what their real strategy ought to be. So you mentioned that, things are looking up and certain categories are starting to rebound. Do you feel at this point, in terms of the recommendations that you're giving to customers, is it sort of business as usual, or are there things that you're advising for them to be sort of doing differently now, given it's been a few weeks and some categories or some products you see are doing well again?
Yeah, so the answer is definitely nuanced. So it's going to depend on your business and your products and kind of where they're sitting. So I would say, just for anybody that's listening, if you have products that are still showing a late April delivery, you probably want to turn off or really scale back what you're doing with sponsored product ads, because your click-through rates and your conversion are going to suffer tremendously. And you have 3PL capabilities, meaning you've got a third-party logistics partner, or you have capabilities of fulfilled orders yourself. You could do fulfilled by merchant as an opportunity in the meantime. I'm not an expert on any channels other than Amazon, but I do know that Facebook and Instagram ads are really cheap right now. So it could just be an opportunity to sort of say, let Amazon catch up for a minute and just direct more traffic to my own website. If Amazon is looking sort of normal in the sense that you're seeing delivery dates for your products that are just a few days out, then in many respects, it is business as usual. Certainly there have been tremendous spikes in certain kinds of keywords. And so if there are opportunities to capitalize on that, take it. Some of it not even coronavirus related, and this is like what we do for our clients is we watch trends. So we have one client that does pet costumes. It's like a really fun niche, and they've actually been pretty hard hit, because they sell a lot through Petco and a lot of these retailers and that kind of thing. but we're seeing a ton of keyword volume spike for Tiger King because of Netflix show. So, they have like a lion mane dog costume. So it's like just trying to match up these opportunities. Yeah. And then obviously, I mean, where people can be dynamic and fill a need, it's risky right now, but it's hard to get masks up on Amazon, but if you get them, they will sell like wildfire. So like clothing manufacturers where you're just cutting and sewing, cut and sew masks. Like, so, I really, this is an opportunity not to just say like, okay, let me just like kind of hunker down and make this out. I really feel, and what I'm seeing with my clients is it's an opportunity to kind of like step into this and say like, how can I serve my customers in a new way? How can I be creative? How can I pivot? And if you're in the unfortunate position where your business has really been exposed and, you kind of realize, 90% of my revenue was coming through this one channel like retail, and now that's not an option. Look, there's not going to be a quick fix for that, but talk to those CEOs, and we've really been building a plan to get them on Amazon, because in the long term, that help future-proof and strengthen their business moving forward.
Yeah. No, you bring up a great point, and I don't mean to sort of pry on your customer base necessarily, but it sounds like there might be a much smaller footprint of folks that have a physical brick and mortar presence in your base, because if Amazon's sort of bulk of their business and that's where they're focused, they're already dominant on e-commerce. So there's a little bit more kind of nimbleness, I think, that comes with online selling, and also the strategies and distribution channels, especially as you mentioned with like Amazon ads or social networks like Facebook and Instagram, where you can quickly dial up or dial down different parts of your spending and try to boost traffic or capitalize on these interesting opportunities. And I think the really tough part, and this is definitely one area where we're kind of zooming in to really help those retailers who have physical brick and mortar locations where maybe bulk of their business is not online yet. I wonder if we could maybe spend a few minutes talking a little bit more detail about those guys and really how we can help those retailers. So as you think about, so maybe I'll sort of divide the line of questions, maybe a discussion around two tracks. So one is for maybe someone that's, brand new to e-commerce. They just have a physical brick and mortar store. They I guess didn't take that leap to e-commerce early. Are there some things, some recommendations you would have for those brick and mortar companies? Is now the right time to jump in and get started on Amazon? Do you think it's a better time to start your own kind of store on like a Shopify or WooCommerce? What would you recommend to somebody that's just got, that's been sort of really hit hard by the coronavirus and having to shut down their retail locations?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll just say my heart goes out to those business owners, because, I've talked to them and they're very savvy people, through no fault of their own, in a super tough situation. And I think we can find something to focus our attention on and sort of a little bit of control and almost a project to sink into. It does help. I do believe that Amazon makes a lot of sense. And certainly when I talk to business owners, I'm going to evaluate whether I think it's a right fit for them, like for their products or whatever. So if anybody wants to reach to me, I'm super honest and fair in that sense, because I just think I only want wins. And just in general, it's not, it's like set someone up for failure, right? Like, so
That's right. Yeah.
Well, look, if there's no demand at all on Amazon for the type of product you sell, I will tell you that Amazon's not a good fit for you. But like I've talked to a couple of restaurant owners in LA who they've developed some spices that go on chicken and fish, and they've been selling them in their restaurants for a couple of years. And they've been kind of kicking around the idea of putting them on Amazon. Sort of, it had just been on the back burner. And now it's like, oh, okay, let's do it, because unfortunately they have a little bit more time on their hands. and it's like, it gives you something to focus on where you feel like, again, it's not to fix the cash flow issue right now, but it does help future-proof your business. And, when you talk about Amazon versus like starting your own website or that kind of thing, this is kind of marketing lingo, but I'm going to keep it really simple. So in marketing lingo, we talk about a funnel. So everybody can imagine a funnel. And when you start your own website, the problem is that nobody comes to it. Like, literally no one will just stumble upon your website. So then you have to drive traffic. And traffic starts top of funnel. It starts cold, meaning they don't know who you are. And then you've got to warm up and start getting down the funnel and get to the bottom of the funnel, which is where they're warm enough and they like you enough and they know enough about you that they're ready to purchase. That process is expensive and it takes time, and it usually takes expertise outside what just one entrepreneur can do. So there's Google SEO agencies, there's lots of agencies that, and that's all they do. The thing about Amazon that's so powerful is that Amazon has 300 million customers on the channel, and they're all bottom of funnel. That's right. Doesn't matter that they don't know your brand. They're bottom funnel because we go on Amazon to buy. All of us do that use Amazon. We're not just there to like window shop and see what's out there. And so the conversion rate on Amazon, it's over 70%. Meaning if I go on Amazon and I type something in, 70% of the time I'm going to buy something. And because I trust Amazon, I may buy something I've never seen before. So you think about like a Yeti mug or whatever, like Yeti is it's almost a household now. But I might buy like Arctic Breeze or something that like I've never heard of because it's the first thing that comes up. It's got good reviews. The picture looks like what I want. And so it's like, okay, let's do it. So that's what Amazon offers brick and mortars and, smaller businesses. That's really impossible to recreate with their own website. And I'm certainly a promoter of omni-channel. So I don't look at it as, do you do your own website or do you do Amazon? But typically from a time and money, just a prioritization of resources, it's just sequencing. Am I investing in Amazon now or am I investing in my website now?
Yeah. I think you bring up a fascinating kind of point, which really hits the mark here that, Amazon's always been about price and convenience, and putting the buyer first. And so they're bringing that traffic. There's such a high degree of trust that they've built with the buyers that once you get your products listed, with that A to Z guarantee, most buyers trust that they're going to get the right product. They can return it easily. So if you play along with all the sort of rules that are in place with Amazon, it's certainly probably one of the best times to start and get listed. My only concern, I think, with Amazon at this point, to your comment as well, is that with the restrictions they have on FBA, hopefully brick and mortar retailers can maybe convert their locations into a mini warehouse and use that to start, packing and shipping out products. But multi-channel or omni-channel is absolutely key. And this is the time, to your comment, that, we need to accelerate that innovation and really use whatever time's available, if it's not being taken away by the kids at home, that we use this time to really accelerate that move towards omni-channel business and not get tied down, so heavily onto just one channel. We see that, in fact, very commonly across our customer base, that all of those customers that have been diversified across multiple channels are reaping tremendous benefits. In fact, even during the FBA kind of non-essentials timing, all of those businesses sort of really quickly switched on their own fulfillment or started to do more promotion for their direct websites so that they could, make up for that loss of revenue and loss of traffic. Since you're, such a big fan of Amazon and that's your specialty, I'd love to hear, especially when it comes to sort of retailers, and I understand it's going to vary by category, but could you share maybe some of your, a few tips, if you can, on kind of what are some real key things that a brick and mortar retailer that's just getting started on Amazon, what should they prepare? What should they have ready? And maybe, talk about sort of time frame. Do you think that they can get up and running in days, weeks? And I understand, again, category by category, but what are some general things that you could share that would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I would take the process seriously, and so even the very first step, which is registering for a Seller Central account, um, we see a lot of sellers go wrong right there. It's like, this is not signing up for Netflix where, like, as long as you put in a credit card, like, they're going to charge you and they're fine. Amazon, if you put in one name as your business name and then you upload your tax information and it's a different LLC name for your EIN number and the address on the credit card is different, your account's immediately going to go into review and you may not be able to sell, sometimes even ever. I mean, it can be difficult to get past some of those blocks and whatever. So take Amazon seriously. Really think about it as almost as if you were building another physical brick and mortar store from the ground up, right? Like, you need a good foundation. So just philosophically, I wouldn't be looking at Amazon as this super quick stopgap. I think for a small minority of people, it might be that. But for most, if you haven't been on Amazon, it's not going to solve a 30 or 60-day cash crunch for you. It's just not. What it's going to do is strengthen your business in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. And so way coronavirus, the time that something crazy happens, which none of us predict, you're going to have a stronger, more diversified business. So I would just be looking at it as an opportunity to really future-proof your business. And what I mean by that is following the consumer trends. So we know that there's a huge consumer move to online shopping, and over the years, Amazon controls almost 5 out of every $10 online. And you had mentioned something a little earlier about, like, what if people feel like, I've never jumped on the bandwagon. And that's what I hear a lot too. Like, well, aren't I too late to the game? Like, Amazon's so saturated. And my response to that is, I really look at Amazon as a rocket ship that's going to the moon. And the question is just, do you want to get to the moon or not? Like, because if you wait a year, the Amazon's not going to get less crowded. You're just going to continue to get further and further behind. And I believe that Amazon isn't slowing down. So, when you think about them controlling 50% of e-commerce, it might feel like ripe for disruption or something, but actually filed a patent back in 2012, so 8 years ago, for anticipated package delivery. So, like, they're 10 steps ahead of all of us. 8 years ago, they were thinking about, how do we get to a place where we have access to all of the products and all the logistics that we can just deliver things on people's doorsteps without them even needing to order it. So I think that the best thing that entrepreneurs can be doing right now is, and I know it's hard, but take a deep breath and get out of scramble mode and just say, like, okay, you will get through this period of time, even though it may feel like an eternity and we're waiting on the Czech government to help and the SBA loans and all that stuff. Get that. But it's an opportunity to say, like, how do I strengthen my business for the future? And that's really where I think the opportunity is, versus this quick, like, what are the things I can take to get on Amazon now? I just don't feel like if you're going into it with that mindset, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, that Amazon, and even as getting started, getting some basic fields wrong or listing the wrong products, getting the wrong pricing, you could easily get blocked, and then you're in this vicious cycle of just sort of getting out of it. So you do need to take it very seriously and really think about how you're playing around. They don't have a sandbox, you can't just go crazy with prices and see what'll happen. You really need to think through your strategy. There are certainly, some folks out there who would argue that, Amazon does have a very rigorous sort of approval process, a very strict set of policies. And, on a whim, they can, change a lot of their policies and approaches. So, personally, I recommend to a lot of our customers that, again, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So while Amazon may continue to be kind of the dominant revenue source, diversification is key. And unfortunately, that might mean more complexity for the business because you're not used to maybe, managing a number of different channels and all the different ways that each channel operates. But certainly having some kind of balance and having a multi-channel approach, I think, is really critical. Um, you talked about kind of time frame, and you felt like it's going to take maybe 60 to 90 days. I think that's what I caught from your comment there, that it's not a quick shot. It'll probably
Right.
take you a few months to get up and running. You want to think long term. For those that might be hurting right now, are there any other suggestions you might have to kind of think about cash flow? Of course, everybody's thinking about the SBA loan programs and other funding
Yeah.
sources, but in terms of just getting online up and running, have any ideas on what might be sort of quick wins to sort of stop the bleeding, if you will?
Yeah, I think this is where that creativity comes into play. So I'm in some local entrepreneurial masterminds. My best friend runs an in-home daycare that's shut down right now. And one of the things that I encouraged her to do, and she's done really successfully, is she put together these learning lab kits for $65 a week. They'll deliver it on your doorstep. And, there's age appropriate activities for your child, like 3 or 4 activities for every day. And so here's another example. Somebody in one of my local masterminds owns a retail clothing business, and it's shut down right now. So we talked about taking a Stitch Fix approach, and they have all the inventory and they have a customer database. Reach out, just do beta testing. Reach out to 10 of your best customers and say, if we deliver 30 pieces that are mix and match in, we can even Zoom session to talk about what you need. We'll deliver these pieces to your doorstep. You decide what you want to keep. You return the other stuff. So I actually think almost like micro local and in working with what you've got is kind of what you have to do if you're in an immediate cash crunch that you're trying to fix. Because and anytime you're not going to build an audience and sell to them in 30 or 60 days. It's the likelihood of that happening successfully is very low. You need to tap into the audience you already have, or find somebody else's that you can do like a co-promote with or something like that. So there's another master that he runs pub calls. And they're all, it's like you can't do any pub crawls. His whole business is shut down. So we're like, okay, well, could you partner with some of the local breweries that are still allowing for pickup of beer and have like a personalized game, and you're Zooming, so you're still creating a still drinking atmosphere, but in a virtual way. So I just think it's going to be every business, and you've got to get super resourceful and say, who do I know? What do I already have? And how I just put every idea on paper. Doesn't matter how busy it sounds. What can we make work?
Yeah. I think there is no sort of silver bullet, but if there's one thing that I think entrepreneurs like yourself, myself do really well, that need to always kind of employ is our creativity, right? So finding ways to make lemonade, if you will. And so this video, in fact, is part of our Beat It series, and that's one of our kind of ideas was, okay, in this downturn, what can we really do? What can we do to help retailers? What can we do to help e-commerce companies? Because right now they're probably running with a gazillion ideas and trying to figure out, okay, do I start selling on Amazon now? Do I start my own e-commerce business? Who do I talk to? Where do I go? And so our attempt here is to really try and, guide those retailers and also just share real stories, right? And your experience as well is very incredibly helpful. I want to touch really quickly on one other aspect of selling, which I think gets often missed. And we talked a little bit about FBA, but for those that maybe don't know enough about FBA, especially brick and mortar companies that are in that journey to moving online, could you talk a little bit about, fulfillment? How do you kind of see what are some strategies? What's best practices? Would you recommend that all of these brick and mortar retailers sort of consider setting up maybe in-house fulfillment for a short term? Should they go directly target FBA? And how should they think about kind of e-commerce and fulfillment as it relates to starting their Amazon channel business?
Yeah, so historically with Amazon, the way that you get a really strong conversion rate on the channel is you've got to have the Prime badge. So the way that you get that is being fulfilled by Amazon. So what that means, what Prog's referring to, in case you're new to this, is it means that you ship a certain amount of your inventory to Amazon warehouses. You still own that inventory, but then when it sells, Amazon picks it, packs it, and ships it to the customer. At that point in time, you sort of get credited for that sale, and then Amazon pays you bi-weekly. So historically, that's always been the way to go. In the future, it's still going to be the way to go. In this weird space that we're in, there is some opportunity for fulfilled by merchant. Now, you don't get the Prime badge in that case, but basically what happens is somebody buys your product on Amazon, and then you get notified of that, and then you have to ship and provide Amazon tracking number, and you still get paid bi-weekly. Amazon, kind of holds on to the funds. So, without getting too much into there are nuances where sometimes having both together can make a lot of sense. Generally speaking, fulfilled by Amazon is the way to go. Now, you can start really small. So you get to choose what and how much you ship into Amazon warehouses. So you may choose some of your overstock items. You may choose, you could literally send in 1 unit. Now, I wouldn't recommend that, but I mean, you could send in 25 or 50 pieces. You don't have to go wide. And this is actually a mistake that I see a lot of clients make. They've come to us and they're like, our Amazon sales are good. And they're an inch deep and a mile wide. They're like, we've got 100 SKUs on Amazon. And it's like, right, but you're not doing anything to promote any of them. All the listings, they look bad. They don't have reviews. So having 100 things, like you've multiplied the problem by 100. I would rather you have 1 or 2 products on the channel, make the listings look really good. So what I mean by that, have good quality imagery, have every image slot filled, have video content, have enhanced brand content or A+ content on the listings. And if you don't know what I mean by it, you can Google it and you'll see some examples. And then focus on driving traffic, like getting reviews and traction there. So if you want your toes in, that way to do it is go really deep. Just pick 1 or 2 SKUs that you're committed to trying.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's very helpful. I think one of the things that I'll add in regards to fulfillment and just expanding towards e-commerce and Amazon is that you kind of do on one hand, you need to look at it very much so like another location, right? Like another physical location. What are you doing about the look? What are you doing about the shelves? What are you doing about each product? How does it, where did you stock it? How well do you maintain it? But then on the other side, because it's all online and you're within the confines of Amazon, you kind of need to build a new muscle. You need to start thinking very differently about what e-commerce buyers are looking for. How do you get more reviews? How do you get more interactivity? And there's definitely some new skills that retailers need to put to work, which of course they can bring in house, or they can get help from you, Emily, and other folks in the community. But you do need to have kind of a very different approach as you're thinking about e-commerce and moving from a brick and mortar to an e-commerce business. I want to wrap up here with just a few kind of broader industry questions, especially for those folks that are kind of going through some really uncertain times. Based on your observations, Emily, and certainly nobody's got a crystal ball here, but do you see kind of the impact of coronavirus to be sort of short-lived for the next couple of months here? Do you see it, or do you see it changing kind of really the broader uh, e-commerce landscape for the forever future, I guess?
Man, I, who knows, really? I mean, like you say, none of us have a crystal ball. I mean, I think in e-commerce, like, we're in a fortunate position saying, is it going to be great for a long time, or is it going to back to just being good? And it's like, so we don't really have to spend as much time forecasting, right? You're in a position where you're like, my sales just went down to nothing. How long is this going to last? You don't have the luxury of, you've got to run all these different scenarios. But ultimately, yes, consumer trends are going to continue to be strong online and on Amazon. And even people who didn't traditionally buy online, now are getting the experience of that too, and the convenience of having things delivered to their door. So theoretically, there will be some halo effect there. Particularly in grocery, has been growing on Amazon over the last couple of years, but it's still definitely is a lagging category, because people just like to go to the grocery store. So it could be that people get used to this idea of like, oh, someone actually picked out my produce and it showed up on my doorstep, and what do you know, it was just fine. We'll have to see. But I really think like the takeaway here is, and you mentioned it earlier, it's diversification, it's being omni-channel, it's just looking at your business different ways and saying like, because even if your business is all online, like where else can it go wrong? I think sometimes we think the grass is greener elsewhere. And I tell you, the people that rely on Facebook ads for all of their business, they're scared to death every night that Facebook is going to shut down their ads account for no reason. Because that happens all the time. The people who are only on Amazon are scared to death that somehow their Amazon's going to shut down their business. So it's like we all have those things. No channel is perfect. And so what you want to do is you want to find ways to really counterbalance that so that you're stronger in the future. And crystal ball question becomes a bit more moot, which is like, it could last 60 days, it could last 90 days, but either way, we're stronger at the end of it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Personally, I feel like what the coronavirus has done is accelerated the inevitable in terms of e-commerce, right? We were seeing e-commerce trending a couple of points up every year compared to retail, and we were at about 15-16%. And I think that's going to accelerate as a percentage of retail dramatically over the next few quarters. And so it's, up to all the retailers out there to really kind of lean into this moment and not be caught sort of back-footed and really capitalize. I think, as you hit on the head, the idea that creativity has to be key, diversification is really, really important. And but it's also important to think that this is the long haul. You're not going to get kind of a quick win within a few weeks. You certainly can find some creative ways to attack it, but you got to think about kind of a new normal for your business and kind of moving on omni-channel. I want to thank you, Emily, for all of your time. And before we close out, if you could just quickly, how can our viewers reach you, and any parting thoughts for any retailers who are looking for some help out there?
Yeah, so our website is elevategrowthgroup.com. You can reach me directly, Emily at Elevate Growth. If you do go to our website, there's a button there to schedule a free brand audit. So if you just want to get a little time on my calendar and just tell me what your products are, and we can talk about whether they're a good fit for Amazon, or maybe you're on Amazon, but your sales just never off the ground. I'm happy to just have a no strings attached conversation and explore what's really going on there and see if it's a fit. But yeah, parting thoughts. One of my mottos is that everything's happening for me. It's not happening to me. And so I really encourage all entrepreneurs, regardless of how hard hit or not you've been in this situation, to just really feel, okay, how is this happening for me? Where is my opportunity to grow? Where is my opportunity to we don't want to contract, we want to expand, and we want to try and stand in our power and find creative ways to serve. And so when we don't make it about us, we start thinking about what clients, what do my customers need right now? What are their pain points? What would be super helpful for them? That's when we really start getting these amazing ideas coming out of nowhere. And I'm super excited to see how it just changes the landscape of everything for the better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very well said, Emily. I really appreciate it. And it really captures the sentiment of our campaign, which is Beat It, really figuring out ways how we can beat this crisis. And Emily, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate all the advice you've given to really help retailers beat this crisis.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.